Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Matt Storrs, and welcome to Mattsplaining. On today's episode, we have somebody who is an expert in a show that I've seen a fair amount of, but I'm very excited to hear what they have to say about it. Expert, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're an expert in.
All right. Well, my name is Dan Bublitz Jr. I am a comedian, and I am an expert in Law and Order Special Victims Unit, also known as SVU.
Fantastic. My understanding of Law and Order SVU is that it's a spinoff of the original Law and Order series, and there's been a bunch of spinoffs. And actually, what people don't realize is that there have been a lot of spinoffs that actually didn't go anywhere. They did a lot of spinoffs that were based in different time periods. So like period piece Law and Orders. There was Law and Order Medieval, there was Law and Order Victorian era. And as you can tell, those are a little bit harder. The amount of forensic evidence that they could get into was a little bit less adequate of the time. Bringing in leeches and then burning them to discern who was guilty or not was a little bit harder to sell to an audience. So they didn't get past the pilot stage. But there were some really good ideas. There was Law and Order Future, but that was just basically Minority Report. And they were like, hey, we can't be associated with that. And as it goes along, there were a couple of spinoffs that did see something later on. For instance, there was a Law and Order Muppets. That ended up being the Muppet movie. Well, I guess puppet movie. I don't think I can say it was a Muppet movie. There was a whole lawsuit about that. That was the one with Melissa McCarthy where there was a criminal investigation. And that actually, they took the pilot that got denied and then turned it into a feature-length film. And my understanding of Special Victims Unit is that it's been on for more than 2 decades, almost 25 years now. And the main staying power of this show is Chris Meloni's rear end. Mostly, I understand that because at the gym, it's always playing. I thought it's just on because that's what the TV station is playing. But then I realized that they were actually changing the channel to where it was on. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they putting Special Victims Unit on? You would think they would put sports on in the gym. But actually what it is those were episodes that prominently featured his rear end to help facilitate people working hard using like the booty bumper, for instance. If you're familiar, it's a new fangled machine that a lot of people like to get their butts into competition with him.
That's smart. Smart.
It is. I mean, basically, if they can, the Nordic Track commercials or the Bowflex commercials, they've been trying to get Chris Meloni to promote the booty bumper for years at this point. I don't know exactly when the booty bumper was developed, but when they were developing it, oh yeah, the hips go up into the sky like Chris Meloni's meaty thighs. The underbelly of the show is for fitness inspiration. That's really why it's stayed on the air. They've done a lot in the history of the show to demonstrate how horrible these crimes are, to like put victims at the center and how much trauma that can go on during their lives. They've done a lot to demonstrate how police investigate, done a lot to make criminals better because they know what the police are looking for in some instances. But ultimately, the reason why the show has staying power and the reason why it maintains its place in our society is because without it, everybody would be skipping leg day. And that's something really admirable. I think that does a lot to help our society on top of all of the other things that it does that are positive, and keeping a lot of actors employed, keeping people coming back, playing multiple roles as the series progresses. Based on what you've heard so far, about how much of that would you say is accurate?
I would say about 5%, maybe 10%.
Oh, a nice 5 and 10%, 5 to 10%. That's one of the lowest ones I've gotten so far.
Oh yeah, you're right about them having spin-offs. just not the spin-offs that you mentioned.
Okay. I mean, you got to admit, though, a medieval SVU or Law and Order would be pretty interesting.
No, I was on board on all the Law and Orders that you mentioned. I wish those were actual Law and Orders. Those would be very entertaining to watch. You were accurate on the puppet movie. I think that probably was a failed Law and Order script.
Right.
From the Muppets, and then they had to change it to puppets for, copyright and trademark issues. You're probably correct on that. And I could see where you would think that Christopher Meloni's behind is what keeps the show going. However, Christopher Meloni has not been on the show for like the several years. He's done some he's now become a guest star on the show here and there because he has his own Law and Order spinoff series called Law and Order Organized Crime.
Interesting.
Yeah, that came out last year. Yeah, I think they're in season 2. Maybe they're in season 3 on that one. But yeah, he went away to do other things. And if you're at all a fan of Christopher Meloni, you know that he had a couple different series since then. He tried to do, it was like a sitcom where he played like a stepdad on Fox, I think, and that only lasted a few episodes before it got canceled. He was also on a show on Sci-Fi, and the name of the show is eluding me, but it was like 2 episodes. Patton Oswalt played this imaginary donkey, which was his kid's imaginary friend, and then he could start seeing it. It was quite a wild show. But now currently, like I said, he's on Law and Order Organized Crime. But one thing that they've been doing in the last couple of years is they have been doing crossovers.
I see.
Where they've been crossovering all of them. And so the original Law and Order went away. They did eventually cancel it, but now that's back as well. And they did a crossover of Law and Order, SVU, and Law and Order Organized Crime. Like they did like a triple crossover with the new stuff. In fact, I think Law and Order, I can't remember. I'm not sure how many years it went away, but SVU has been going since '99. It's currently on its 24th season.
Oh, wow. That's wild. I have one question about the crossover episode. Since they brought all of the units together, the best of these New York detectives, did they bring them all together because all of the criminals had organized because of the organized crime unit? And they were like kind of like a superhero sort of thing where like the worst offenders got out of prison and then they're like, we're going to do a lot of crimes? Or was it just like a big circumstance where they just needed to come together because it was a big case?
It was a big circumstance situation.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to do with like a human trafficking type of situation.
Okay, so not the worst offenders getting out of prison a la Batman.
No offenders getting out of prison, anything like that. Nothing that exciting. It was pretty, they tied it in pretty well. We're making it where it had to do with human trafficking, which, brings in your special victims unit, and that was tied to organized crime, which brought in your organized crime. And they started off with just regular Law and Order, where the detective, one of the main cast members there, was having like lunch or something with his daughter, and then suddenly this girl was like running from somebody and he was trying to help her, and then something came up and then she got shot and ended up dying, and so it tied it all together.
Oh wow, that sounds like it was fun. Well, that it was fun based on all the things, but it was like an engaging episode or set of episodes. Absolutely. They did a great job of doing like the crossover that they did. And before that, they had already did crossovers with SVU, and I'm sure they've done other crossovers before this, but they did do a crossover with Law and Order Organized Crime and SVU, because obviously, Olivia Benson, who is now a captain on SVU, played by Mariska Hargitay, her and Christopher Meloni's character Elliot Stabler were partners for a long time, and they introduced organized crime by doing a crossover with SVU, where
Elliot came back to New York to kind of be one of the lead detectives in this special organized crime unit. And one of the first cases that he was kind of working on had to do with, I don't know, spoiler alert, I guess. Spoiler. Do we do spoiler alerts or do we do spoilers? Should I not?
You can do spoilers. I don't think that. How long ago did this come out?
This was a couple years ago.
Yeah, you're good.
This was a couple years ago. So Stabler was living in Europe doing like, he was working for like an organized crime thing over there.
Interesting. I in that brief period, I was really hoping you were going to say he was like getting into pottery.
I mean, like, maybe that was like his hobby.
Yeah, I wish that would have happened. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, but he comes back to New York to work on this organized crime unit, and then his wife is murdered in a car bombing, and that was meant for him. And so that's what brings him back to SVU. They start, he reaches out to Olivia to help, like they're looking for the murder, trying to figure out who planted the bomb, which ends up being a kind of a crime family. And that's what kicks off the organized crime unit.
I see. So he's kind of out for not necessarily revenge, but, to make amends.
Well, I would say he is more out for revenge. If the one thing about Elliot Stabler, or Christopher Meloni's character, Elliot Stabler, he is he's one of them. He's like a tough cop, and he will push the limits of what he can and can't do. Like his reputation for getting a little rowdy and really roughing up, suspects and trying to get answers and pushing the limits. He has a reputation for that. So it's no surprise that he's not just trying to solve this case for redemption. He wants to, if he had it his way, he'd probably kill the person who killed his wife.
Right.
Because that's the kind of person, like he's like right on that edge. He plays a person that's like right on the edge of losing it and just beating the crap out of every suspect.
Right. So a policeman, but
yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Excellent.
I was just going to say the other cool thing about Law and Order SVU specifically, again, it's been going for 24 years, and the cast, they do rotate. It has been rotating since Christopher left, and some other people left too. And sometimes they come back, but they've done a really good job of like keeping some of the core characters, like Olivia Benson. She's been with the show since the beginning. She's like one of the original cast members. Ice-T, he came on like the second or third season, still with the show, and it's had like just an amazing amount of guest stars. And it's fun to watch now. Like if you watch it and watch some of the older episodes, you'll see somebody that's a guest star and you're like, oh my God, they're actually really famous now because they're like an amazing actor doing cool things. But back then they were probably just, just getting their start.
Absolutely. And that's one of the shows that I feel does that's a really good actor. Why are they in such a small role? And then you have to debate like, could they be the murderer? Or are they just going to be a bit part because it was so early in their career? And that like adds a whole nother level of intrigue and mystery of watching it. It's very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that's cool about it, and I think it could be said about most, I don't know about the regular Law and Order, but I know with Law and Order SVU, one of the things about it is that a lot of the stories are inspired by real events. So some of your stuff that comes out as a real event will kind of like, they'll do a story similar. Like for an example, the Harvey Weinstein thing, there was an episode that was very similar to that. There's been similar to comedians being called out for the Me Too as well, and different things like that. So like, and then just some, random real cases that have happened. They'll do like similar episodes that are based on those stories.
Right. One of my favorite concepts for a potential Law and Order was Law and Order Petty Crimes. And it was just basically beat cops having to like figure out who stole a stereo. Not the most exciting, but television most likely. But the formula would be fun.
I think so. I think you could have fun. I think what you're thinking of is what came out as Clinton 99.
I see. That could quite frankly be fantastic. If people wanted to learn more about you or about the show, where would you recommend that they go?
Well, to learn more about the show, obviously you can go to the internet, but if you want to watch the show, that's the best way to learn about the show.
Okay.
It used to be available on Hulu, but I don't think it is now. I think you have to have Peacock to get the old episodes. Granted, it reruns all the time on like Ion and USA and channels like that. So if you have cable or satellite, you can watch it there. But I think the best way is actually to get Peacock. And no, they're not endorsing me. That's just how it is. I've noticed since they launched their own streaming service, they've been slowly moving their stuff off of Hulu onto that platform.
Right.
Because I used to use Hulu to watch all these shows. So that's why I know that. So that's where you can go. Peacock is the best way to watch these episodes. All the seasons are on there. For me, the best way to find out more about me, you can go to my website, dbubcomedy.com, dbubcomedy.com. Either one will get you there. I'm on all the social media platforms at dbubcomedy Comedy as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on the episode today. I feel like I've learned quite a bit.
I hope so. I could go on and on and on about this. I said it's probably one of the few shows that I've watched like every episode.
That's awesome.
And if it comes on as a rerun, I'll watch it still.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's a good cleaning show.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's also a good like travel for comedy show. So like when you're in a hotel and it's on, I just put it on for while I'm traveling for comedy.
Absolutely. Fantastic. My name is Matt Storrs, and this has been Mattsplaining.